Well, hello, Jamie. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Erika. It's lovely to be on here. It's brilliant to be here.
Yes, I am so excited to have you. As I was telling you offline, my children are huge fans of your channel. For any of you guys watching and listening, I know I have a lot of moms out there. This is a wonderful YouTube channel for children, and I don't let my kids watch a lot of shows or TV or any screen time at all, but yours is one that I say, yes, you can watch Cosmic Kids Yoga, because they're not just watching it, but I see it, they're doing yoga, they're interacting. So it is a beautifully done, well thought out, wonderful program for kids. So I am so excited to have you, Jamie, and to talk all about having a children's channel and specifically about monetizing one. I really can't wait to get into that. So why don't you share with our viewers and listeners a little bit about you and how you got started onto YouTube and kind of how things snowballed to, the million plus subscribers that you have now.
Sure. Well, it all began really because I was teaching kids yoga in schools and doing after school clubs and lunch clubs and teaching in preschools. And that had all kind of come about having been a kids entertainer for many years and an actress, but also a yogi. And I'd seen that opportunity between those three things: storytelling, yoga, movement, mindfulness, that the three things could be combined in a really powerful way and would make a brilliant offering for a school as an extracurricular activity. The schools where I lived were really up for the idea, as were the parents, especially a lot of those parents who already practice themselves, love and appreciate exercise and the power it has for their own mental health as well as their physical health. So it just took off. I found myself teaching 15 classes a week and dragging around this bag of yoga mats. And my husband was the one who said to me in 2011, 2012, it's all about video now. He'd been out to Silicon Valley and had a kind of tour of all of these kind of top dog kind of companies. And it was all about video. We've got to be producing video. And he rang me from San Francisco and said, what can we do that's video? And I was like, well, we could film the yoga adventures that I do in my classes. And to be honest, that would be great, because the kids who don't feel like doing it at 3:15 on a Wednesday afternoon can do it whenever they want if we put it on YouTube, say. And at that point as well, YouTube has this amazing kudos that kids just totally hook into. It's this cool place and they can't, they're really intrigued by it. So it felt like the perfect storm of kind of bringing this really good, healthy, like holistic content to a platform that was like catnip, for cats, and bring those two things together, but give kids that chance to be able to do their yoga when they choose. And that agency is so important, I think, for kids to do this. They have to want to do it if you're going to get any benefit from it. So we posted our first video. It was very makeshift. I'm still really proud of it because it's warts and all. It's not got a brilliant, shiny, whizzy background. And the sound was a bit tinny and all the rest of it. But it was just pure and connection. And I could look down the camera and teach exactly what I teach in my classes. And we put it up. We sort of sat on it for a bit. We didn't publish publicly for about 2 months because we thought it was weird. We were like, is this weird? That was back in the day when we were worried about weird things on YouTube.
What year was that?
2012.
Oh, okay. So
2012,
yeah,
10 exactly. Years. And so 10 years, this is our 10-year anniversary. Wow. I can't believe it. So then we hit publish in May 2012. And then, 1 view, 2 views, 89 views, 1,000 views. It just started to sort of grow. And the first adopters were teachers, were the people in classrooms who were like, this is brilliant. I can use this in my class. The kids will love it. And then that has really stayed the same all the way through, with teachers being, I guess, our biggest ambassadors, the ones who just hooked into that resource straight away and thought, I'm going to use this. And it's just grown it from there. We've just kept putting up another video and another video, and keep teaching my classes, keep listening to the kids. What do they want? What do they need? What's kind of the issue at the moment? What's the thing that the parents need help with? What's the thing that the teachers need help with? And trying to weave that in through the stories that I'm creating, and also trying to hone in on what those messages are in those big movies, so that they teach something useful and valuable at the same time as kids getting that activity, that movement in their bodies. So yeah, it's gone on that little journey, really.
Yeah, I love how your videos are a combination of, like you mentioned, like the storytelling and physical movement because the kids are doing yoga, and then
Mm,
also the message. You know that you always have like a
yeah,
positive message, and you take like a Disney movie like Frozen, and what are the positive messages, and you're sharing that. I think it's a wonderful. I
yeah.
think it's beautiful. So I think what you've done is so amazing. So were there a video or two or few that kind of put your channel on the map?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to sort of say Frozen, because when
Mm-hmm.
we launched the Frozen one, it was pretty. It just went ballistic. It went boing, straight up, and the kids just loved that. The fact that they could be in the movie, it was almost like they get to act it out and be every part and
Mm-hmm.
feel every feeling and be Elsa, be Anna, be
Yeah.
be Olaf. They get to be all of those characters and feel them in their bodies, and I think kids really want to get close to those
Mm-hmm.
experiences, and the yoga gives them the opportunity to do that. So it really felt like that was a wonderful kind of synergy, and really made the channel blow up. Then really weirdly, seasonal stuff, so
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Halloween, I mean, such a
Mm-hmm.
big weird, now almost bigger than sort of Christmas and Passover and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Halloween is this huge season, isn't it? And it is now over in here in the UK. And so I wrote a story called Ruby Broom, and it was all about a little girl who's a witch, but in a normal sort of human world. And she has to kind of come to terms with accepting her witchiness, and for all of its blessings as well as all of its kind of challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it resonated with so many kids who, you know, possibly recognize that in themselves. They're trying to sort of reconcile themselves with their differences, accept themselves, but then they're also trying to fit in and look like their friends, and not put a
Yeah.
foot out of line. And so there's this real kind of tussle, I think, for kids, and I think that story really hit the nail on the head. And
Yeah.
as a result, that story has done as well as Frozen has in
Oh
many
wow.
respects. I think that's at about 17 million views, and I think Frozen's about 20.
Wow.
And Ruby Broom went up a couple of years later. So I feel really proud of that, because it was an original. It was one
Wow.
that
Yeah, that
that
you
came out of my
wrote.
head.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
so
That must
I'm
feel really
really
good.
proud.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean that's a lot of views. 17 million for an original story. How cool is that?
yeah,
That's a really
really
cool.
cool.
And so, did you, when the Frozen one took off, did you at any point, maybe with that one or the Ruby one, did you maybe change the way you approach things? Like, did it ever change your strategy? Like, oh, I've got to do more Disney movies, or I got to do more of these like
Mm,
popular movies, or was
mm.
there a way that you maybe presented it that made you shift things at all?
It certainly made me a lot more intentional
Mm-hmm.
about recognizing the stuff that the kids really love, whether that is a movie that they're all kind of talking about, and therefore there being a big clue in that maybe I should think about how do I convert that into a yoga adventure, to understanding the kind of ripples in the kind of ether around mental health and the
Yeah,
stuff that kids are struggling with.
yeah.
And that one about accepting yourself and confidence, and being, especially in girls at the
Mm.
time, I was sort of like, I felt like that had a real, if I can, that message suddenly became almost more important than the yoga, because that sort of coaching and level of kind of mindfulness that we can weave in has such power
Mm-hmm.
and impact on those kids' lives and their development. And
Yeah.
so I think what it did is both of those videos certainly made me a lot more intentional about really appreciating what kids need and what kids want.
Uh,
And therefore from then on, I've really sort of like made that the start point for every story. It's like,
mm,
every time I watch a Disney movie now, I'm thinking,
what's the
what am I,
lesson?
what are they trying to teach me here, and
Mm-hmm.
what are they trying to teach the kids who are watching this show,
Mm.
to sort of really understand it and then zone in on that. So
That's
yeah.
cool. Really cool. So I want to talk a little bit about how you monetize a kids channel. And since you've been
Mm,
around for so long, they've been so many different arcs of monetization, right? When you signed
mm.
on, was there even the AdSense partner program, or was that before?
I think it might have been just before,
Right before,
and then it came in. Yeah, and then suddenly it came in, and we were scooped up by partner managers, and YouTube started to be a lot more kind of helpful, because they were recognizing things that they wanted to try and help and promote. And so we were invited to creator summits, and we were given lots of advice about what we could do and what we should use comments for, and different kind of series and formats we should play with. And YouTube was becoming this real hive of kind of different kind of opportunities and platforms for us, and it was really serving its purpose. And not, I mean, the ad revenue from YouTube was never particularly brilliant, I have to say. Like, we were always sort of like, we were intrigued by certainly these creator summits where we would meet like PewDiePie, or we would meet like some of the kind of gamers, or we would meet the guys that are making serious bucks on this platform, and we would be like, why aren't we making the same? Because we'd all be talking about it.
Because you get a lot of views, and like with children's content, I mean, I'm sure you're like, okay, we're getting millions and millions of views, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we totally were, but it wasn't necessarily, I mean, it certainly wasn't on the scale of the gamers. They were getting millions and billions of views, but even still, we weren't necessarily cutting much of a revenue from it. We were having to think about diversifying and multiple revenue streams from quite an early stage. And so the first thing we did was actually we created an online teacher training. So I've taught other yoga teachers and teachers how to teach kids yoga. And so we created an online course. And so bang, number one, that was a great revenue stream. And that revenue stream actually then funded us to make the videos to then start putting them on YouTube, because the revenue, it wouldn't pay for itself. And it never really did.
Okay, so not even before the whole COVID.
Not even before.
Okay.
Yeah, not even before. It was really low. It was low in the mix, really. And there were kind of, YouTube were very positive and wanting to try and help, but I guess they spread everything. Ad revenue is spread very thinly across a lot of channels, and it really depends on your videos getting the traction that means that they can sell to advertisers, and that we were on our way to that. And then obviously, and then in end of 2019, beginning of 2020, when YouTube were fined $170 million for tracking data of people under the age of 13, and slapped wrists basically, and that's what the fine was for. It meant that shutdown sort of happened on 90% of that smallish revenue anyway that we had on YouTube. So that was a bit of a kind of like wallop. But by that point, we'd already sort of thought about the multiple revenue streams, because we realized YouTube wasn't our big source of making a living. So, and then in about 2015, 2016 with Vimeo, we developed what was called VHX back then. We developed a desktop app, because so many teachers were still using our content and wanted a place off YouTube because of all the firewalls and things like that. They weren't necessarily always able to use the content. We put all of our stuff on an app, and set a quite reasonable amount of a chart, like $50 for a year. And lots of teachers were like, thank you. So we had a very small base of people who were on this app, which was away from YouTube, a little walled garden, and the beginnings of that. So when January 2020 hit, 90% of that YouTube revenue dropped. We were in a bit of a pickle, because we had all the same content on our app to what we had on YouTube. And it's like, where's the incentive for a person looking at this to go, okay, we're going to buy the app, unless you really don't like or abide ads. And all the kind of suggested videos and all of the links and potential kind of wormholes that you can go down. It was a bit of a kind of hard sell. People were like, well, if I can get it all free on YouTube, why would I get it on the app? Which is a fair enough question, right? But we figured, look, okay, what we have to start doing is loading up the app with content that you can't get on YouTube. We also have to start kind of really selling the fact that this is a much safer place, a much safer area for you to put your children in front of, and know that you can just go and have a shower or make dinner or whatever it is without the issue of whatever else YouTube can show you. And so that's where it kind of just took this fork. But we still have this ethos, because we create yoga for kids. We want it to be available for all kids. We don't think there should be a price tag really on it. But frankly, to make that, you can't make the videos for nothing.
Yeah, I mean, your videos have very high production value. I mean, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And after we wrap up the kind of monetization, I do want to talk about the production a little bit, just kind of all that. So let's table that for a second. But
sure.
Yeah, so because a lot of YouTubers, they make money in several different ways. AdSense revenue, and I think it depends on whatever your niche is. Some niches naturally see higher AdSense splits. Affiliates, which, I mean, you're not talking about products or anything, during the video.
Yeah.
And then brand sponsorships, and then sometimes their own services and products like what you have. Do you ever work with brands and do any type of brand sponsorships?
We do, and have done now more so in the last couple of years, because really when sadly the pandemic hit and March 2020 came along, which was obviously a couple of months after the whole shift in YouTube, our numbers went from 100,000 a day to 1 million a day. And that
views.
Hockey stick views, that hockey stick of increase was significant, because it meant that suddenly a lot of brands popped up as a sort of, these guys are doing something interesting. So I think the first one that got in touch was P&G, because they wanted us to make a thing about our hand washing. And it was the time when we were all washing our hands, like
sanitizing,
birthday and all this stuff. Exactly. And so they wanted us to do a partnership. So they were like, look, we want you to do a yoga adventure about whatever you like, but try and include hand washing. And so we were like, okay, we can do this. And initially we were a bit like about the commerciality of that, but then because we'd never done anything like that before.
So you've never done a brand sponsorship prior to the pandemic?
No. Okay. No, not at all. And so it was a real new one for us. But we stayed true to the way we do things, the way we make things. They left us alone. They let us just get on with it. And actually we reconciled ourselves with the fact that we were offering something that was going to be really helpful and useful to kids and parents at this time, and that we could make it fun for kids, hand washing. And sure enough, we were really proud of what we made with them. And then since then, we had E1, Hasbro. They wanted us to make a yoga adventure for My Little Pony. We had Sega, Paramount wanting us to make one for Sonic. And so they're now, I think also all the movie houses are seeing there's a potential in letting us do something, collaborate, and create a thing that kids can interact with that is based on their very brilliantly developed brands and characters, like the ponies, like Sonic, and it has now become something of a strand of content that we now make. And they're always very keen, obviously, for us to put that content on YouTube, because that's where the big audience figures are. So we just recently did Paul McCartney's new kids book, and so working with McCartney Productions, and his so cool to work with a Beatle. I mean, I was just like, cool. Wow.
You didn't get to interact with him at all, did you? Or no?
Sadly not. But we've used, we were given permission to use his voice in it. We were given permission to use his music in it. We were given permission to use all the assets from the book, which is just beautiful. It's all about, it's called Granddude's Green Submarine, and it's about the joy of grandparents and grandkids and the adventures they go on together. It's a beautiful story, and it was just what an opportunity to sort of again put that little partnership on your copybook and say, look, we did that.
That's so cool. So that's really interesting that the pandemic brought about a lot of exposure to these brands, and the brands are pretty smart. They say, okay, she's doing stories anyways, might as well work with her. And then since then, are you managing these brand deals yourself, or do you now have a manager, somebody that helps you with that?
Yeah, within our team, Martin, my husband, generally does it, and we've got a couple of other guys in our team who help us. And I mean, we generally cut a deal though with those big companies. We say, don't pay us any money, we just want you to help us build awareness, you know. So we don't do it for a transaction usually, and that's quite a bit. They're always a bit like, what? So we don't have to pay you? And it's like, no, but we are going to ask for X, Y, and Z in order to do this, you know.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to ask for.
They're not paying you?
No, not always. No, P&G paid us, but no, not the others. We learned a lesson, funnily enough, when we worked with Fox. We worked with Fox, and we did The Masked Singer, and they were doing one of their TV. It was either this season just gone. Yeah, it was, and they wanted us to do one. And it was so they wanted to pay us a chunk of money, and then we would create a yoga adventure with their characters.
Okay.
It was such a tussle because they wanted so much of control. Yeah, in the creative process, and it made it very uncomfortable and really sort of awkward to be honest. We had to sort of kowtow and kind of like do what they said. And so we realized at that point, look, we should just not do this with them, because this become what, you know, basically you become someone's when you're kind of when they're paying you all that money and you think,
you're like, I
don't want to do that.
This is why I'm doing this.
Exactly. And it's also, I think, interferes with the sort of with the quality of what's then produced, in the integrity. Exactly, that's the word. And so I really felt like, we've got to find another way of extracting the value from these partnerships, and it can be done. You just have to be very upfront at the start about what are you going to do for us and what are we going to do for you. So you get a kind of barter almost between the two of you.
There's a win-win.
There's a win-win, and usually that awareness, and if it's, you know, as I said before, if we've got our app, if that awareness is about driving people to the app, then the app becomes the kind of thing that actually is our main source of revenue ultimately.
Yeah, so what is it that you ask for when you say awareness? Like, are they promoting the video or the app, or you know, how? Like, what exactly are they doing?
They're promoting the video across usually all their socials. In an ideal world, like for instance with the Paul McCartney one, we were like, can we get Paul McCartney doing the video, filming himself and posting about it? You know, it's things like that basically. Paul McCartney is at an age now where he's just like, but I understand, cool. You know, I kind of give him that. He's kind of worked hard and long enough in his life to sort of give him that. But the likes of My Little Pony, for instance, you know, they were all over it. They were putting it through all of their channels. So it was almost like we tapped into the power of the PR of E1 and Hasbro. And that's got a huge power for us, you know, and can really help us grow and help build that awareness. So it's generally about them spreading the word for us and just shouting from the rooftops about what this adventure does. And sure enough, it's really paid dividends for them, because that My Little Pony Netflix movie and then now their series has done really well, and our yoga adventure is doing just as well as sort of as theirs is. So it is it's a powerful thing. So I just feel sometimes you have to kind of go, so if it wasn't about the money, what would it be about, and what would help, you know, and know and trust that the money will come, because if you build the awareness, then the organic kind of growth of it happens, you know. So
so when you did those deals, did it surpass kind of what you thought, like, oh wow, I knew we'd get awareness, but this is a lot? Or were you like, God, I would have thought we would have gotten more from that? Like, what was the result of some of this?
I sort of knew instinctively when we did Sonic, when we did My Little Pony, that they were going to absolutely fly, because there's so many kids have asked me to do My Little Pony. So many kids have said, can you do a Mario one? Can you do a Sega Sonic one? Can you do an Encanto one? And I know that if I've got enough critical mass of kids that have asked me from separate places, you know, whether it's on posts that parents have sent, or emails that they've sent, or comments in social posts, I just know that these things are just going to do very well. You know, I've only got to look really back at sort of the Frozens, the Harry Potters, the Star Wars, is to know that if you make that kind of marriage between something that kids already love a lot and this yoga experience, it's like a kind of little like secret sauce when you put them lightning in a bottle, exactly. So it was that real kind of like, yes, I know these things can be brought together and have big effect and big power. So yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Wow, that's so interesting. So let's touch base real quickly on just kind of the production value, because you still have your first video on YouTube, and that was definitely, what was the word that you used? It was kind of funny. I don't know what,
warts and all.
Yeah, warts and all. Warts and all.
Warts and all.
Yeah. So it was definitely like a first attempt, right? But now, you know, when I look at the videos, I'm like, wow, the animation, the green screens, the music. There's a lot of production that goes into each video. So a couple questions about that. Like, how many people on your team are working on it? How long does it take from like, you know, inception to like the completion to upload? And then, those are the two main questions.
Sure. Yeah. So basically what happens, if I have an idea, I'll be like, right, I'll talk to Martin, my husband, but also who organizes the production of all of our videos. And I'll say, look, I want to do an Encanto one. I've got all these kids saying, please, can you do an Encanto yoga? Can you do an Encanto yoga? And I've got to just do it. I think we've just got to do it. And Martin will go, all right, then cool. Go and write the script and see where you are. So then I'll dive into the story, watch the movie a bunch of times, get the book, just really kind of get under its skin. And then I'll write the story in my own way, kind of with the beats of where I think the yoga can really sort of bring it to life. But also just kind of like narrowing it down a bit, because obviously a movie that's an hour and a half isn't going to be work as an hour and a half yoga adventure. It has to just be the kind of the beats of the story. And then so I'll go away and then I'll finesse it and then I'll start rehearsing it. And then I'll call the studio, and we've got a green screen studio that's down the road from us, and book a day in. And then I'll call Conrad, who is our right hand man, who has been filming with us right from the beginning, and say, Conrad, you come into here on the green screen studio on the X day. We're going to do the shoot. We're going to do Encanto. I'll send him at that point a bunch of ideas that I think I've got for what I want the background to look like, and sort of moments in the story where I think, oh, that would be quite good for an effect, you know, or I could have some sparkles coming out my fingers there, or I could have a rainbow going over my head there, or we could make we could have a rainstorm or whatever it is, and give him the kind of heads up on production wise, what is he looking at. He'll then go, cool, okay, great, well, that gives me an idea. So then we'll go and film it. I'll have had about a week to rehearse it. So I'm just going through it every day over and over again until I am as fluent and I can do it upside down, standing on my head, doing the washing up, whatever. And then we'll go and film it, and I'll feel as comfortable and as easy as I can because I've done the rehearsal beforehand. And then Conrad, myself, Martin, all in the studio together, film it for the day. And it takes me, well, it usually takes however long the video is, because I usually do it in a take. Because by that point, I'm pretty easy. I might, if I fluff a word, I'm practiced. If I fluff a word, I'll be like, I'm just going to roll back and do that bit again.
Yeah. So you have the whole script memorized and everything at that point.
Yeah. Okay. The whole script. Okay. Yeah. Because I basically treat it a bit like going into a classroom full of children or onto a stage in the theatre, and think you can't just sort of go, no, stop, I want to do it again. You want to kind of keep going. You know, the show must go on. You know, there is that kind of mentality with me, and I also just think that connection with the kids through the lens is really powerful. And actually, if I just keep talking to that little person who's on the other end of the camera, then I can't go wrong. Actually, I've just got to share this story, and we're going to do it together, and it's just got this lovely excitement with it. So I'll get to the end, and then it's finished, and then Conrad will take that lovely sort of raw footage. He then does an edit with the kind of close-ups and the wide shots. And then we talk more about the background, and we finesse what it's going to be. He'll then, because we've then got another chap on our team called Petro, who's from Kyiv in Ukraine, in fact. So we've just moved him. Best bless him. So Petro has now moved, which we're really excited with his family, from Kyiv to Henley, where we live, just outside London.
So you moved him, with the whole thing.
And Katya and Yova and David, his kids, and because obviously isn't a particularly safe place to be right now, and so they've moved, and he is an incredibly talented 3D world builder, as is Conrad. And together, he and Conrad build the brief together. And then Petro basically goes into his kind of Blender and all these different kind of cool, very geeky software programs that I probably should know more about, but I don't. And and he builds these crazy cool worlds that are like from scratch. So I look like I belong in them. And then because we've talked about, you know, golden butterflies fluttering here and maybe lightning striking there, and we've got those kind of effects already built in. He knows where in the script, when he's comped me into it, where to put them in. Then it's all handed back after it's been beautified and made brilliant by Conrad, back to Martin. Martin then does all the sound, he does all the music, he then kind of, because he's got that talent as well. And then there it is, we've got our little finished product. And I'd say start to finish, if we're really going for it, you're looking at between 10 to 12 weeks from start
for one video.
For one video, yeah.
Wow.
And that's it's quite it's quite a lot of
production.
Work.
It's a huge production.
Yeah, it's amazing because Conrad and Petro, they're amazing. They're a lot of people will be like, but it's just going on YouTube. Why are you doing the gold version? Just do the gold plated version, you know? And I think when you meet perfectionists and real kind of craftsmen, you know, they really know what they're doing. Art, you can't stop them, and actually they want to do something beautiful, and the legacy of that means that you end up with an archive of incredibly beautiful content.
Wow. So how often are you uploading on your channel? How often do you have a new video?
On YouTube, on YouTube now, it's tending to be more towards when we do brand partnerships. So the McCartney Productions one we just did, and we're actually doing one soon with another partner called Grief Encounter, which is quite sort of pertinent at the moment with the Queen dying last week. We you know, it's about bereavement and grief, and how do kids deal with that, and you know. So that was an interesting partnership. So those videos will go up so once every couple of months with one of those big ones, and usually they're a brand partnership one. But we're putting out a lot more on the app. So we're still trying to make sure that the app has this kind of, it's a special place, and it's got a lot more of the content and a lot more of the sort of mindfulness and a lot more of the yoga. And then we'll put teasers up on YouTube now more and more, because YouTube is still a window for the world, and still a place and we've still got all of our archive on it, so kids can still get that experience. But we are aware that we need to kind of make sure, given that there really is no revenue on YouTube, it's important that we make sure that our app is a sustainable thing, and is a place where people feel like they're getting good value, you know, versus what you get on YouTube. So, you know, we're always in a tussle with that, because we're always thinking, oh, you know, is it the new content that people want, or actually is it just the fact that there aren't any ads? And that's enough, you know. The fact is that there are enough sort of those what we might call conscious parents in the world who are just like really concerned about.
I am concerned about that. Like I knew you had something, but after doing the research, I'm like, oh, I'm 100% I'm getting the app for the kids, because that was my main issue. It's like, and they get annoyed. They're like, oh, there's an ad, you know. It's like, I know you could get the YouTube Red.
They get annoyed.
You could get the YouTube Red and all of that, but still, I'm like, you know, I like the idea of it being
even the YouTube. It's true. And even on YouTube Kids, you know, like I've been scrolling on YouTube Kids, and there'll be some random video where Peppa Pig meets Spider-Man meets Elsa, and they're all doing something very inappropriate with each other, and you're like, how is this on YouTube Kids?
No, I don't trust YouTube Kids at all. I don't trust it. I don't know. I personally don't. But I know. That's just me, you know.
I don't think you're alone. I think something a lot of parents are quite wise to, because this is always the thing with YouTube is that it sort of doesn't want to be a publisher, but it wants to take all the credit for the good content that's on its platform. So it's like, what are you then? You're an advertiser, you know. It's an advertising business at the end of the day. So you have to kind of look. It's a bit like Facebook is kind of a book of faces, you know. It's what Mark Zuckerberg initially invented it for. So it's like, what was its seed? And it still is that, really. So, but it's still, I mean, honestly, it's still a great platform, because it enables so much sharing, and it enables it's enabled us to be where we are now. So,
Yeah.
you know, I really can't I can't do it down too much, even though it kind of, I'm always like, "Grr,"
I
with it,
know.
you know.
I think a lot of creators have this love-hate relationship with YouTube because they know it's like if it wasn't
Yeah,
for YouTube, they wouldn't be where they're at. But like YouTube kind of get your act together with some of these things, right? So I know a
absolutely.
lot of creators
Yeah.
that feel that way. And
Yeah.
so, but YouTube, is that your main traffic source to the app, or is it some of these other brand partnerships now? That's the,
Yeah.
yeah, the main traffic.
It generally still is. I mean, it's such a
Mm-hmm.
huge, YouTube is as a search engine is a really big one. And one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that I know we've really become now, which is amazing, is that people search for cosmic kids yoga more than they search for kids yoga. So when
Mm-hmm.
it's an amazing thing when your brand becomes bigger than the kind of generic sort of description of an activity, and it's like, whoa. So we know that when someone goes onto YouTube and they're searching for kids yoga or cosmic kids yoga, bang, we're the thing that's
You're the
there. And
one
so
thing. Wow.
yeah, and that's sort of such a powerful thing. So it means
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of people see our content and find our content through there. And we've just had to get very, very sort of obvious, and we're still not doing it enough
Yeah, with the
about the fact
app.
that we have an app. Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
something we, you know, no matter, we feels like to us like we're really going on about it all the time, but I don't think we are. And that's the thing. It's like it's really hard to penetrate when people have got used to using you on one platform, YouTube,
Yeah.
to then think, oh, there's an app. You know, it's like why would they don't even think about it.
And the
So
kids are the one mainly watching it too, and they're not necessarily the ones that are going to buy it.
absolutely, yeah, exactly. And that's
Mm-hmm.
another thing I'm definitely going to get my head around more, is that I have to talk to parents actually a lot more in my
Mm-hmm.
videos, in my stuff on social, because actually, again, you haven't got kids looking at Instagram.
Yeah,
It's parents who are watching Instagram,
exactly.
you know. So it's that sort of thing. So
Yeah, so
yeah.
interesting. So interesting. All right, so we're nearing the end of the interview. And this is where I ask you the same questions that I've asked everyone that's come on the show, but it's like rapid fire answers. Okay.
Okay.
So,
Right.
first question is, what is your number one struggle with your YouTube?
Our number one struggle with YouTube, making sure that it's giving people a kind of experience of cosmic kids, and a really good experience of cosmic kids, but also sharing the fact that we have an app.
Yeah, trying to monetize it, right?
Yeah,
You can't
that's the
create
words.
that beautiful content without being able to bring some money in. So,
Sadly not. No.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
If you were to start over with your channel right now, what, if anything, would you do differently?
I would. I think I would have started an app at the same time. So think initially, like what is YouTube is an advertising platform, it's a marketing tool. What are you pointing to? You know, so think about what's the product that you kind of want to end up funding this YouTube channel with.
How many years after starting your channel did you create the app?
4
Okay.
years, so
Okay.
it wasn't too
Almost,
bad, but yeah, it was 2016. Yeah, we were like, right, and that was prompted by teachers.
Yeah. Okay. What is your favorite video you created on your channel?
Oh, I think it has to be Ruby Broom, because it was an original story and it had so much resonance, and it's so much fun, and there's a skeleton dance in it, and it's Halloween, and it's just it's got loads of kind of lovely good stuff in it, and so and kids absolutely love it.
Oh my gosh. What is your number one tip for preserving your mental health as a content creator on YouTube?
I would say to get yourself away from the screen as much as possible and get out in nature and be with the trees, be with the sky, and breathe.
Yeah.
Keep breathing.
Get away from this virtual world, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Have you ever just wanted to give up with your channel? What happened there, and how did you get back on track?
Yeah, there was a bit of I remember at one point when everything got quite political around Black Lives Matter, and I remember being kind of suddenly it was actually on Instagram and things like that, because by that point YouTube had turned off comments on kids' content, so I wasn't really getting any comments there.
Yeah.
But I remember getting suddenly a lot of kind of attack in comments and trolls on social, people saying I should be doing this and I should be doing that, and I suddenly felt a bit like I was being put into a corner.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that feeling at all. And I thought, well, maybe I should just not be on the internet anymore, you know. And it was like that kind of moment of like, I think I need this to go away now. And it was actually just, I think, riding the storm a little bit and listening and engaging with people a bit more, and then understanding, okay, where do I sit on all of this stuff, and being, again, sort of quite purposeful and thoughtful about how to respond. But yeah, that definitely tested my mettle when it came to, do I want to be in this world anymore?
Yeah, you know? I think a lot of creators felt that. It's like, okay, you know, give me a minute to figure out where I stand with things were happening. And I think it's crazy for you. You're not even in the U.S. Like, this was very U.S. based, but it was. And I mean, 60% of our audience is US and Canada, and so I think that's why. And so exactly, that was why it was so weird for us here in the UK, because it certainly wasn't. But although there was a movement here as well, it wasn't as powerful and prolific as it was in the US at that time. And so, but I felt like I got the kind of the wave of it from the US, because
even though
such a large audience, from
exactly,
the US. Any video you're particularly excited about that just didn't do that well on your channel?
I remember Dumbo. So I did Dumbo. I was so excited about it, and they were bringing out a new movie about it, and it was it was exciting, and I loved the story. And then so I did the story kind of to how it was done back in like 1941, you know, the original story. And there's a scene in it when the clowns spill a load of champagne into the bucket, and Dumbo's very sad and ends up going and drinking some of the water, and he gets a bit drunk, and then he ends up having that amazing hallucination, which means he can then fly. And that's the kind of story, right? And I hadn't really sort of thought about it, but then I realized, there's a lot of parents pointing out to me, but we can't sort of have our kids acting out like they're drunk, you know. And I was like,
that's true.
Oh yeah, I should probably like just go back and look at the appropriateness of this. Anyway, so it didn't do brilliantly. I mean, it actually did do all right, but then we actually took it down because I thought,
you took it down.
Yeah, because actually I thought, that this is one of those videos that, I mean, a lot of parents, a lot of kids, fine, no worries, they didn't mind, but there were enough parents, and we were a bit like, okay, I think we should just like get rid.
Oh my gosh, is that one that you spent like 12 weeks on?
Sometimes you just have to painfully say goodbye.
Oh my god. That's insane.
It's quite heartbreaking.
That is heartbreaking. What is the biggest opportunity you got a result as being a content creator on YouTube?
Well, I think the Beatle one, I think working with Paul McCartney has been a pretty cool one. I didn't imagine that would ever happen. I think the other one that's been pretty amazing was the European Space Agency getting in touch and saying that one of their astronauts was loving Cosmic Kids, as was her daughter. She was about to go up onto the ISS, and would we create a yoga plan for her? And we've done that. We've worked with her, Samantha Cristoforetti. I mean, she's one of the biggest TikTok astronauts you could call her now. Anyway, so she has, I mean, and so working with ESA, with that organization, and a full-on proper astronaut. We went to Cologne, we met them, I mean, they've invited me to go on a parabolic flight, which is one of these vomit comet kind of plane. Anyway, that's a whole other. So things like that, I'd say they're quite big opportunities that I just wouldn't have had.
That's very cool. And what would you say has kept you going over the last 10 years as a content creator?
Partnership with Martin, my husband. I mean, the fact is we started this together, and I think being a pair, being two of us, has meant that we've always had this kind of, we can talk about it whenever and however we want, you know, and we're always able to assess and review and think about things and have a little bit of a debate with each other sometimes, and that really is worth its weight in gold when it comes to making good decisions and who you work with and who you trust. And I think doing this on my own, I don't think I could have done it. For sure.
A lot of work. It's a huge production. And what is your superpower that you think has led to your success?
I think being able to talk to kids. I think being able to talk and communicate and be on their level and meet them at their level, and I think use language that they get, use turn of phrase that they get and help them understand stuff about themselves and the world, so that they turn into hopefully happy, healthy grown-ups one day. So I think that's probably it.
You do a beautiful job with that. You do. You're such a natural.
Thanks.
Interacting with kids and you can see it. And the last question is, what is your number one piece of advice you would tell someone who's just starting off on YouTube?
I think you have to just be consistent, dig in, keep going. You know, try not to get too swallowed up by the stats and the kind of like, did they like it, don't they like it? You know, just be responsive, be open-minded, listen to people. But then, you know, if someone's not helping you, if someone's being negative, just you've got to blank them out. If someone's being positive and kind, take those words, take that heart, and just keep going. You really have to keep going and be as consistent and as positive as you can be. I think that's all you've got. Yeah.
Well, Jamie, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure talking to you. I hear your voice, you know, when my kids are watching the Cosmic Yoga. Like I said, it's the only thing on YouTube that I let them watch without me, you know, actually in general. And so you've done such a beautiful job creating something truly beautiful for children that is great and wonderful in its messages, that allows children to be very active physically, and you know, it's fun for them. I mean, they asked me, can I do Cosmic Kids? Can I do Cosmic Kids? After I was like, you know, it's like, not today, or okay, we'll do one, just one, right? So thank you for creating something so beautiful for children. I really appreciate it. You've done a beautiful, amazing job, and I'm so glad to see that companies and organizations and big brands and, you know, your app and all that is doing so well. So
thank you, Erika. Yeah, it's a pleasure, and I'm just glad that we get to do it. I can't believe I'm so blessed that I get to do what I do every day. So I feel very fortunate. So
for our parents that are listening and watching, where can they find you? Where can they find your app? You know, all of your content.
Our website's brilliant, so cosmickids.com. Go to the app.cosmickids.com, and when you download the app, you can stream it on all devices, your big screen, you can stream it on your iPads, you can stream it on multiple devices within your household. So, and it's a great place to go and get all that content really well organized in a helpful way.
All right, and I'm going to list all of the links and everything in the description so you guys can go check her out. So, Jamie, thank you so much. This was wonderful.
My pleasure. Lovely to see you, Erika.
Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed that interview and you learned a lot from it. Now, if you have a YouTube channel or considering starting a YouTube channel that you're serious about growing and you want the best of the best when it comes to personalized feedback, advice, and up-to-the-minute YouTube strategy, then consider my Zero to Influence YouTube Bootcamp for Women. I have been running this bootcamp since 2018, and we have hundreds upon hundreds of very successful students that have gone through the program. And I can go on and on about the YouTube Bootcamp, but I want you to hear it directly from some of the women themselves.
I feel so lucky that I got to do Erika's bootcamp.
Before joining Erika's bootcamp, my channel was all over the place. I didn't know what I was talking about. I would hear people say that I need to find my why and my voice and my audience and understand my target audience, but I never felt like I really understood what that meant.
Erika helped me come up with YouTube video ideas. She helped me with consistency. She helps me to interpret my analytics.
I started with 12,000 subscribers and now I have over 50,000 and it is growing rapidly.
My channel has grown almost 100,000 subscribers.
I definitely wouldn't have gotten to this place in such a short amount of time without Erika's bootcamp.
What makes Erika special is that she has been talking to and analyzing YouTube channels for years, and that has given her this bank of knowledge to pull from.
I'm constantly asking her questions about YouTube. I'm asking her advice about my YouTube channel.
Taking the Zero to Influence YouTube Bootcamp was one of the best
decision I could have ever made for myself, for my channel, for my own personal growth as a human being. I could not be happier.
I love that it has reinvigorated me in such a beautiful way. So I am so happy that I've joined.
You're crazy not to hire her. Get on it. All right.